I spoke about the control tower, and that's a metaphor that we're going to come back to. Instead of you're trying to fly and be a pilot as the marketing director, or worst case, a blind pilot, not getting the data, we're building a control tower where we will understand the customer journey, we will know what they really like, and we'll have increasingly new touch points because of big data, because of new systems, and because of a better understanding of the customer relationship. This is how it could look in the control tower.
Peter, come take a look at this.
Mr. Daniels.
Mr. Daniels.
Look at this. What's this?
The numbers, they keep getting bigger and bigger.
The clicks are off the charts.
Yeah.
Yoshi, it's Walter. We're back.
Yes, sir! Ay! Gambare! Orida! Motto! Tracking! More shifting!
I need more trees. More trees? I'll get you more trees.
Hey, take a look at wood pulp.
Whoa. Everything you got on wood pulp right now.
He really loves that thing.
So we're going to invite the next speaker who gave me this video as a case in point that you really need a control tower. Simon from Adobe, please welcome to Stockholm and to SIME stage. Thank you very much. Have a seat in the sofa.
Yeah.
I've always wanted my own TV show, like my opera show. This is as close as I get.
And
so.
Surrounded by marketeers, I feel like I'm on a kind of marketing therapy
yes.
sofa now, so I might sit back with my legs up.
Did you have a good childhood?
I beg your pardon?
No, I'm just joking. no, but Adobe has you've done interesting studies saying that marketeers, they suffer from sort of digital anxiety, or there's a lot of anxiety as all these new channels and opportunities are being everywhere. Yeah. But how to find the path?
Absolutely. So we talk about digital distress. So we ran a survey of 1,000 marketeers. And it was really quite disturbing to see the results in terms of lack of training, expectations on what they were supposed to do in their job without that training, being in control of all the data. It was a really quite a disturbing report, absolutely.
But for a lot of people, Adobe was sort of PDF, and now you offer complete suites where you can help marketeers do a lot of magical things they couldn't do before.
Absolutely. So we've really undergone a major transformation at Adobe over the last few years. So as you said, 5 years ago, Adobe was the creative company, the company that was used by brands and agencies and customers to create and make money from content. We then, back in 2009, acquired Omniture, web analytics. And people were really kind of shaking their head, didn't quite get the connection. But we knew internally, and really from what our customers were telling us, it was great to create the content, but the power would be in taking that content, managing it, mobilizing it, and optimizing it. So over the last few years, we've gone about acquiring more digital marketing businesses so we can help our customers manage the entire marketing workflow, from creating that content right the way through to making sure it's optimized across all the different channels and all the different touch points.
With a strong focus on analytics and data, of course.
Analytics and content, absolutely.
But what are some of the major changes you've seen the last couple of years?
So for me, there have been an amazing amount of changes. For me, there are three that really stand out. Firstly is the speed, the pace of change. We've seen, if I look at it, even within Adobe, we used to have Monday morning meetings with all the key functions in the business, and we'd look at the kind of performance, and we'd sit and we'd say, okay, we need to improve this. We'd meet a week later and see if anything had been achieved. That's completely changed now. We're now using a new function that we created at Adobe called Marketing Insight and Operations that really has the finger on the pulse of the organization. So we can see if things aren't performing, or if a web page or a web experience or a piece of content isn't performing, we have to do something about it straight away. So we have to operate at the speed at which our customers are operating.
And you transformed a lot yourself. What are some of the drivers behind that transformation? Because it's a recurring theme. How do you sort of trigger transformation? How do you sort of lead transformation without getting stuck in a PDF or something that you did before?
Great question. So I'd say collaboration is absolutely key. Particularly when you're introducing digital or on this digital journey, collaboration with business partners, particularly IT, that relationship between marketing and IT is so fundamental to the success of any kind of digital transformation.
But they're completely different culturally. They walk differently, they dress differently, they have different lingo.
They're a very different animal, you're absolutely right. But I think it's about finding a kind of mutual understanding, because on the one hand, they have to let go of processes that they've been used to owning, particularly when it comes to the web. At the same time, if you help them understand why you're doing these things, and you really work in partnership to achieve common goals, it can be really successful. So that's one thing. The other thing is around training of the team. So I think 82% of the marketers in this survey said that they are expected to basically learn on the job. And I don't think that's acceptable. I think you have to find ways in which you can upskill your team, identify training courses that can help them come to terms with what is a very complex subject matter.
And I see sort of a dilemma. One thing is you have to be a really good marketing director doing what you're doing right now. At the same time, you need to go to training. You need to learn a lot about different channels. And you need to somehow find time for that. And then you need to bring your organization into the new working mode, which requires even more time. So how do you push the gas and the brake at the same time? How do you go from protecting the core and doing that well and then stimulating progress on the other end?
So I think that's all those points you mentioned are kind of why you need therapy. I think it is really challenging, and I think it's about taking small steps, but taking them quickly, and learning and doing lots of testing. And I think that you're absolutely right. You can't ignore the here and now. You have to continue to deliver to meet your customers' requirements now. But I think you can also work as a team by breaking down silos in particular. Digital transcends so many functions. If you can figure out internally how you break down those silos, how you can find some common goals around digital, then you can start to really be much more proactive. So the one thing I didn't mention is that 2 years ago at Adobe, we now spend 74% of our marketing budget on digital, which, according to Forrester's latest research, which is about to be published, is more than double the average of a brand of our kind of size. So and doing that meant we had to have a significant organizational change.
We're going to look at some other brands as well, because what I want to move into is what's the future role of the marketing director. And because I put the program together, I can choose my favorite brands. So I'll invite two of my favorite brands. One is Uber. How many of you know what Uber is? Raise a hand. Good, you were listening yesterday. How many of you have used Uber? Oh, a fair amount. For the ones that haven't used it, it's a fantastic service. And we have a fantastic representative, Babba Canales from Uber. Very welcome to SIME. Hey, I steal hugs as often as I can. Please have a seat. And the next brand is a brand that they're doing something remarkable, and I don't really know how they're doing it. They're delivering better quality, they're doing it cheaper, and they're also doing it with a cool smile that I like. And they have realized that most people prefer to have internet when they're flying to having a curtain that somebody can sit behind or in front of. Norwegian, welcome up, Sara Camursoy. Hey, I'll steal a hug. Hi, Sara. Welcome up. So please, you can have a sit here. Starting out with Norwegian, how do you do that?
Well, we're fortunate to be in an industry where to be ahead cost-wise, you have to have the best product. So it's sort of, you have to have a new plane to be competitive, and that gives so many benefits to the passengers. Because if you sit in this new plane, some of them have the new plane smell still, and you have Wi-Fi, it's light, you have a nice lighting system, you have leg space, it's kind of quiet.
And it's a timing issue then, that you come in the right market.
Yeah.
But right now you're growing left and right with Norwegian.
Yeah.
Flying directly to Florida, which is a good thing. Flying directly to Florida, which is a good thing. Could you tell me how you see the role of the marketing director changing?
Well, the digital world was sort of, when we started 11 years ago, distribution was very much like travel agents, and offline and online had started to happen. For us, it had to be online. You can't sort of start by doing offline. So we've always been very digital in a sense. And I think we, according to Google, now have one of the most advanced accounts in Europe. So in one sense, we should just maybe then lean back and say, hey, we've already done that. But the thing is, the deeper you get into it, the more difficult it becomes and more complex it becomes. Because if you have 2 million people flying every month and you want to sort of target every one of them with unique messages, it never ends. So I would say that to survive in the future, you have to accept that everyone was sort of, to do a metaphor, speaking English. And then you woke up one morning and slowly everyone had started speaking Mandarin. And in a couple of years, everyone's speaking Mandarin. So you just have to learn the language and make sure that everyone who works with you speaks the language. Less than, I think some companies maybe bring in that guy who knows Mandarin and he has to translate for everyone. And that doesn't work.
That's a wonderful metaphor.
Yeah.
Did you get that, all of you? So that's your digital department. You need to speak Mandarin. It's a lot easier to have a company with people that speak Mandarin than try to get a guy that translates for everybody that doesn't understand Mandarin. And that's often how it looks like. There's always somebody that really gets it at each company.
And I think connecting back to what you said, the IT department and the marketing department, they have to be best friends. And it doesn't always look like that in the real world, but we have to speak the same language. So IT understands why marketing wants certain things, and marketing understands how to speak to the IT department to get them excited about what it is that we want.
Moving over to Uber. First of all, tell a little bit what Uber is with your own words.
Well, I saw many of you have tried Uber, which makes me smile. But for you who haven't, I just like the other day, for example, me and my friends were having dinner. We took an Uber from there to go to the next bar, and by the tap of a bottom, like a black, elegant Mercedes just shows up within minutes. It takes us to the bar. We actually fair splitted the cost directly through the app. There were no payment hassles in the car. We just arrived stylish, went out, and had a nice evening. It just works. So it's these seamless, small details that makes a huge difference. So Uber is basically everyone's private driver on demand. And that's not just in Stockholm, it's actually on a global level. So wherever you go, you can open up the Uber app and request an elegant and safe ride to an affordable price point.
But how many cities are you by now?
53, to be exact.
And how old is the company?
3 years.
Yeah, so most taxi companies, they stay in their city, maybe they get an next car after 3 years if they can afford it. You know, it's a very sort of let's take over the world kind of business. And there you come in as a challenger and do it completely different. What sort of mindset drives that non-taxi driver mentality?
I think it's looking to the consumer and the customer, like it's always been the core of Uber. Okay, so customers nowadays are mobile. I mean, how many of you haven't traveled this year? Raise your hands. I mean, I guess like everyone travels a lot and we're traveling more and more, and that gives us like the opportunity where you go to an airport in a foreign country and you stand there and you have all these opportunities, like all these choices, and you don't know what to pick. When I'm in Paris, I don't speak French, I don't know, I just know I'm gonna get screwed up, and I kind of accept it. And that's not okay. You should always be safe wherever you go. So what we want to create is an elegant and safe transportation on a global level that you can trust wherever you go, and not only in your hometown.
But how can you provide a service that is a Mercedes with somebody that knows your name and gives you a newspaper at a price which is not much higher or sometimes even cheaper than a normal taxi? What's the key behind delivering something that's more valuable, cheaper? I honestly don't get it.
Magic. No, I think it's again like what Norwegian was talking about here. It's about bringing efficiency to field rather than like, for us it's not buying cars though, but it's making like the limousine industries in each local market more efficient. So these limousine companies normally have maybe one pre-booking for one day and maybe one in the evening, and then they have like a lot of downtime for, I don't know, let's say 5 hours. What do they do with these 5 hours? The car is just standing there and it's a very expensive and nice car. So what if we could bring efficiency so they could use these 5 hours to actually work? and make more money. And that's where Uber comes in. So they can log in and log out whenever they want, which allows them to gain extra money. And we can also offer the service to a much lower price because it's more of an efficiency around it.
So, okay, digital brings efficiency. What happens to creativity? Marketing directors they're cool guys to have at a dinner. They speak eloquently. They see things. They're creative. What happens with that? Because there's, in certain companies, they're just like, screw that shit. Just look at the numbers. Do A and B testing. And creativity is kind of out of fashion. Could you reflect on this topic a little bit?
Yeah, so I think that there's you need the combination of the kind of the craftsmanship, the passion, the creativity of the right hand side of the brain, as well as the analysis and logic of the left hand side. And I think that as data becomes more important, it does drive marketing campaigns and should drive marketing campaigns. You still need to be remarkable. And I'll give you an example of that. So we were running an event in the Nordics for Creative Cloud and a few months ago, and we decided to produce a video to help drive registrations for the event. We hoped to get about 12,000 people to come to this virtual event. And the video was really successful, and we ended up driving 80,000 people to the event as a result of this one video, which has now had 18 million views on YouTube. I'll give you the name, you have to have a look at this. But the point behind this is that it was a really creative video, as you'll see, but we used analytics to then see who came to the event, who then purchased, retargeting, we used data to retarget those who didn't attend, and then also then used data to deliver a really personal web experience for those people based on the sessions they attended online. So it's really a combination.
And creativity in sort of Uber's case, you've grown through word of mouth a lot, to a lot of people saying like, well, can I get a Mercedes from here? And then they download the app right now. How do you fuel that? Is that luck, or is it sort of, how do you work with that? How do you work with building the community?
I mean, if you just think about it, what do people share? They very seldom share someone's ad, but they share content. So at Uber, we were continuously with bringing a unique content that is engaging and shareable. Mm-hmm. And
what could that be?
That can sometimes be something that is completely like out of our core business, mm-hmm. but is still connected to the app. For example, what if you one day could request your favorite DJ star in the world to pick you up and drive you to his performance and get you like VIP backstage passes? That would be great, right? So, well, we actually made that come true in Stockholm. We collaborated with Axwell, a former member of Swedish House Mafia, and you could, through the Uber app, request Axwell on demand, and he actually showed up in a car, driving the damn car himself, picking you up, and yeah, you had a time with Axwell in the car, and you get to the party, you get VIP access, and you can imagine, people went nuts.
But it's storytelling.
Definitely, this is a story that I still hear. People are like, yeah, didn't you guys like collaborate with this awesome Axwell? And that's so fun. I mean, it doesn't have anything specifically to do with the black car, but it has to do with Uber and the technical platform that we have, and how genius it is, how cool you can be, like what kind of cool things you can bring with it. And I think I love to say that we love to do the unexpected things, because if something is unexpected, people will share it. They feel like, whoa, I didn't expect this from a transportation company, kind of. So, and yeah, I think it's very fun to see like how the community reacts on different content activities that you do that are very unexpected.
Sara?
Yeah, I would say we have some content activities up our sleeve for the future, but one which is sort of happened, it wasn't planned, but if you install Wi-Fi into a plane, what's going to happen? People check in above the clouds. And I think one of the most shared pictures on Facebook, and not so much Instagram because that wasn't really a thing back then, was a wing with a winglet with a Norwegian logo and clouds, obviously. So that in itself just helped spread the story that I'm on board a plane and it's got Wi-Fi and it's Norwegian.
And people talk about that too. Like I hear people always say that like, oh, Norwegian has Wi-Fi on board. And for Uber, I think it's like the water or the simple fact that the driver opens the door.
Yeah.
That's the storytelling, and it's such a small detail.
I heard it costs enormous amounts of money to have Wi-Fi on board, but you make that investment. Why is that? Is that because it's a differentiator, or because there's a digirati that you're after, or sort of what drives that investment?
as you know, we offer it free, which is sound counterintuitive for a company that is very cost efficient. But it's about making the customer experience important. And you're going to sit in this plane for a long time, and you need stuff to do. And obviously, we don't hand out magazines because it weighs a lot and people throw them away. So that's a way to provide entertainment. And we also have a video on demand platform with entertainment on board. So it's really making the experience as positive as possible for the people sitting there and waiting to get to where they're going.
What if we sort of wrap up with one question that I think many people and I are thinking, what can you do differently on Monday? What are some of the things that you've seen that you can give as a gift in partying to the audience here?
I would say benchmark your organization. You know, benchmark your skills, benchmark your capabilities, and whether it
find out if they speak Mandarin or English.
That would help, yeah. But analytics. It could be in the area of analytics. It could be in the area of testing or in social. But do some benchmarking. We've got a capability maturity self-assessment tool, which is free for anyone to use, which will help them benchmark. We can send out the link via this hashtag, so you can use that. I think unless you know where you stand today, and then think about what you're going to measure, it's pretty hard to optimize. So I would say start with benchmarking.
That's interesting. Start with benchmarking. How good are you at this? That's the starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say to come up with a more of a testing approach in your organization. Sometimes I find myself talking to marketing directors who are assuming a lot of things. They're like, no, but we couldn't do that because of the brand issue. The brand will die if I do that. And I'm like, have you tried?
I completely agree with that. There's so many orthodoxies, so many common views, and also what is good and what is bad is assumed and not tested.
Test it and figure it out. That's the only way to figure it out for real.
Yeah, and I would say for those who are in the beginning of the process is to just start, because there's so much to do. It's very easy to get almost paralyzed, because if you want to enter into a more performance-oriented way of doing things, it's like you need to tag your website. I think we have 3,000 or 4,000 tags on it, and then act on all that. It can be kind of daunting, so you just have to take baby steps, start with a small pilot maybe, and see how that works, and then you build enthusiasm through the results. Because when you see that this little thing worked, then if we do the next and the next, rather than saying we'll start a project now and 3 years from now we'll have the first delivery.
So, things to do on Monday. Thank you very much for sharing, and thank you very much for being here on the SIME stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,